This is SpaceTime, Series 29, Episode 96, for broadcast on the 12th of August 2026. Coming up on SpaceTime, the largest known galaxy in the universe, evidence of streams flowing across the surface of distant Pluto, and NASA's Mars Curiosity rover celebrates its 14th birthday on the surface of the red planet. All that and more coming up on SpaceTime.
Welcome to SpaceTime with Stuart Gary.
Astronomers have taken their deepest images yet of what, for now at least, is the largest known galaxy in the universe, a behemoth called IC 1101, located in the heart of the galaxy cluster Able 2029. The new observations, reported on the pre-press physics website archive.org, allowed the authors to identify the galaxy's outer edge for the first time, thereby confirming that it spans some 1.7 million light-years and contains an estimated 3.4 trillion solar masses in stars. Now, by comparison, our own galaxy, the Milky Way, is somewhere between 100,000 and 120,000 light-years across, and it contains roughly 800 billion to 1.5 trillion solar masses. All galaxies grow through mergers and galactic cannibalism, and for giants like IC 1101, their faint stellar halos over billions of years blend smoothly in the intragalactic cluster, the diffuse medium of gas, dust and stars filling the space between galaxies in a cluster. All this blending makes them hard to measure. Their tidal tails and stellar halos overlap surrounding intracluster light, making it hard to tell where one galaxy ends and the next begins. So our study's authors from the Institute of Astrophysics in the Canary Islands used ultra-deep observations from the Isaac Newton telescope to detect very faint starlight and then separate that light from the unwanted scattered light from foreground stars. This allowed them to build a detailed model of the telescope's point spread function using dozens of calibration stars of differing brightness. They could then use that data to subtract the scattered light one by one from over 250 stars in their final image, in the process revealing the faint structures. And the radial profiles, that is how the starlight changes with distance from the galactic centre, revealed the galaxy's actual edge. Astronomers also found that this monster galaxy is still growing. The authors detected 8 extensive faint asymmetrical stellar structures, 2 lining up with known X-ray disturbances in the surrounding hot cluster gas. Clear evidence this monster's still cannibalizing other nearby galaxies, getting bigger. This is SpaceTime. Still to come, evidence of streams flowing on the distant world of Pluto. And NASA's Mars Curiosity rover celebrates its 14th birthday on the red planet. All that and more still to come on SpaceTime. Astronomers have found the first ever evidence of liquids flowing across the surface of the distant frozen world of Pluto. The findings, reported in the Planetary Science Journal, suggest that liquid nitrogen is rising to Pluto's surface through cracks along the northern edge of the Sputnik Planitia, part of the massive heart-shaped glacier that dominates much of the dwarf planet's surface. The findings are based on data from NASA's New Horizons spacecraft. The study's lead author, New Horizons principal investigator Alan Stern from the Southwest Research Institute in San Antonio, Texas, says Pluto never stops surprising scientists. He says in addition to suggesting that liquids have recently expressed themselves onto Pluto's surface, it also suggests a new kind of time-variable feature on Pluto. Sputnik Planitia is a vast, frozen nitrogen glacier, larger than the states of Texas and Oklahoma combined. In 2015 and 2016, New Horizons imaged the northernmost portions of this region, revealing city-sized geologic convection cells on Sputnik Planitia, separated by thin, dark linear and more diffuse dark features. New analysis now indicates that these dark linear and diffuse features appear to have been occasionally and temporarily wetted, perhaps from time to time by liquid, the most likely liquid there being nitrogen. Now, Pluto's atmospheric and thermal conditions make liquid nitrogen rain physically impossible. Nevertheless, the surface patterns on northern Sputnik Planitia have been darkened in ways that do resemble glacial fractures on Earth that have been wetted by rainwater, or the subsurface emergence of liquids onto the surface. Scientists compared the New Horizons images to NASA Landsat 9 imagery of locations on Earth, including the Greenland ice sheet. There, dark narrow surface features have been identified in areas where liquid water occurs on the ice and snow. And the Sputnik Planitia images from New Horizon appear very similar, suggesting that subsurface liquids, specifically nitrogen, is rising and wetting Pluto's nitrogen ice. Now, adding to this is the simple fact that Sputnik Planitia is quite young, probably less than 1 million years old, based on modelling using surface overturn, and so these features must have formed in the time period since then. Of course, Pluto has many unique terrains seen nowhere else in the solar system, and this area of Sputnik Planitia is one of them. Its surface provides a different set of conditions compared to what scientists are used to seeing here on Earth. And so exploring this area allows them to better understand how materials behave in environments that are very difficult to reproduce here on Earth. Earlier research did suggest ancient liquid flows on Pluto, but the new work suggests there is currently, or at least recent, liquid nitrogen beneath the surface of the glacier. Computer models show that nitrogen ice at the base of Pluto's kilometres-deep Sputnik Glacier can melt, forming liquid nitrogen. These models reveal that this liquid can then be transported upwards to the surface through small conduits, similar to lava or glacier tubes, driven by buoyancy or simply by pressure from below. The authors found that once reaching the surface, the melted nitrogen can remain liquid long enough to flow downwards on the slopes on the Sputnik's nitrogen glacier, wetting the ice surface and producing the dark features being observed. While no other regions on Pluto show any evidence of basal flow, over half of Pluto still remains unmapped in high resolution. Now, this melting process and the liquid's upward movement on Pluto could also potentially explain other events seen across the solar system, such as the geysers observed by NASA's Voyager 2 mission on Neptune's moon Triton, which, like Pluto, is thought to be a Kuiper Belt object. This is SpaceTime. Still to come, NASA's Mars Curiosity rover celebrates its 14th birthday on the red planet. And later in the science report, researchers genetically engineered tobacco and lettuce to produce meat proteins. All that and more still to come on SpaceTime. NASA's Mars Curiosity rover has just celebrated its 40th birthday on the surface of the red planet. It was back on August the 6th, 2012, that the 899-kilogram vehicle touched down on the floor of Gale Crater. Its mission to determine if Mars was ever capable of hosting the sort of habitable conditions that would have been necessary to have supported life as we know it. And within months, scientists were provided with their answer, a resounding yes. But that wasn't the end of its mission. Curiosity has continued to explore Gale Crater's floor and is now moving up Mount Sharp, the crater's central peak. Curiosity's now reached a location that appears to be an erosional supersurface. That's a break in the rock record where layers of sediment have been stripped away by wind or water before newer layers were deposited on top of them. The 5.5-kilometre high Mount Sharp is layered like a geology textbook, with each sedimentary rock strata representing a new chapter in the geologic history of the red planet. Mission managers say their 6-wheeled car-sized robotic laboratory has now reached a layer where the science team have spotted a possible erosional supersurface. They reached this conclusion after analysing orbital data alongside images of the layers in the buttes above the rover. After eyeing off this unusual section of Mount Sharp from a distance over the last few months, scientists say it's exciting to finally be so close to this feature. Over the coming days, Curiosity science instruments will provide a geologist's eye view of the region, helping researchers understand this feature, including its composition and its centimetre-scale geometry. The rover's imaging the feature at several different locations. For the moment, they've backed away from the feature to get a good rover's eye view, which sets up things nicely to collect 2 massive Mastcam mosaics across the entire layer. Meanwhile, ChemCam provided additional support by collecting some long-distance images of the most interesting areas of the supersurface. Mission managers have also measured the composition of the rocks at the bottom of the surface and to drive right up to the very base of the layer. They've also been using their time to grab some new images of the rover's wheels to determine just how badly they've become worn over the past 14 years of travel. And the images show holes right through the treads. The science team have been able to use their new observations of the rock strata to determine where the most scientifically interesting places are and where to plan a new route in order to get there safely. You see, there is some pretty sandy and steeply sloping terrain around the site. After all, the last thing you want is to get bogged in sand you can't get out of. Right now, NASA has 2 operational rovers on the surface of Mars, Curiosity and its younger sister Perseverance, which are exploring 2 entirely different regions of the red planet and looking at different eras of the planet's past. Separated by some 3,700 kilometres, the 2 rovers are uncovering clues from very different moments in Martian history. Well, Curiosity is climbing Mount Sharp inside Gal Crater, where rock layers are revealing how the Martian climate's changed as water dried up from its surface. Perseverance is on the rim of Jezero Crater, where it's studying some of the oldest Martian terrain ever explored, in the process searching for signs of ancient microbial life. Together, these 2 missions are helping scientists reconstruct how Mars formed and how it changed from a warm, wet world where life could exist to the freeze-dried desert it's become today. This report from NASA TV.
NASA has 2 rovers on Mars, and they're currently exploring completely different chapters of Martian history. They're 2,300 miles apart, or roughly the distance from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. But the real divide between them isn't miles. It's millions, even billions of years. In and around Jezero Crater, the Perseverance rover is looking back toward Mars's earliest years, searching for signs of ancient microbial life. After exploring an area of the crater that was once an ancient river delta, Perseverance climbed to the crater rim to reach terrain that's nearly 4 billion years old. These rocks were here long before water filled the crater. Scientists even believe some rocks in this area formed when Mars was still shaping its crust and atmosphere, and massive asteroids were pummeling the planet's surface. This terrain is a time capsule from the earliest period of the solar system. Meanwhile, over 2,000 miles to the east, the Curiosity rover is looking for evidence that ancient Mars had the right conditions to support life. Inside Gale Crater, Curiosity is climbing Mount Sharp, a mountain built from layers of sediment deposited over millions of years. Each layer is younger than the one below it, creating a geological timeline that records how Mars changed. So, while Perseverance looks back towards Mars' formative years, asking how the planet came of age, Curiosity is moving forward in time, reading a later story of water, climate, and habitability. Together, they're helping scientists reconstruct how Mars formed, how it changed, and how it went from wet to dry.
This is SpaceTime. And time now to take another brief look at some of the other stories making news in science this week with a science report. Scientists have developed a new app that could help fast-track the diagnosis of autism. It currently takes an average of 3.15 years to confirm an autism finding, an even longer period of 3.49 years to confirm ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and some 4.2 years to diagnose people with both. And that's where BlinkLab comes in. It's a smartphone-based diagnostic tool, which is now being tested in Australia through Monash University, and it could cut down the time it takes to get a diagnosis to just 3 hours. The app works by playing videos with unexpected sounds while recording reactions on a phone's front camera. This is used to analyse facial reflexes and blinker responses to help diagnose autism and ADHD. Platform's already undergone successful trials in the United States, and so now it's Australia's turn. Scientists have genetically engineered tobacco and lettuce plants, producing the meat protein myoglobin, while at the same time also being environmentally friendly. The research, reported in the journal Frontiers of Plant Science, involved adding animal genes into the plant's DNA. Iron-rich myoglobin gives meat its umami flavour and its red colour. The authors say the myoglobin could then be extracted from plants and used to improve the taste of vegan meat substitutes, or the lettuce could simply be eaten on its own as a source of iron. The authors found that per hectare of farmland, the amount of myoglobin protein these plants can produce would more than rival that of animal agriculture, while at the same time also being far more environmentally friendly. A new study has shown that the famous long-extinct dodo bird may actually have been nocturnal. The dodo, a global symbol of human-caused extinction, was one of the world's largest pigeons. These flightless birds were native to Mauritius, an island east of Madagascar in the Indian Ocean. They were between 62 and 75 centimetres tall, weighed up to 21 kilograms. Dodos had greyish or brownish plumage, with lighter primary feathers and a tuft of curly light feathers high on its rear. Dodos' heads were grey and naked, with a green, black and yellow beak and stout yellowish legs with black claws. Sadly, the animals were hunted to extinction for their meat, with the last known death occurring in 1662. The new study, reported in the Zoological Journal of the Linnean Society, has shown that the dodo's brains was proportionally appropriate for the bird's size, putting an end to the common belief that they were especially dumb. A new study claims that the rise of a teenager's problematic social media use from year to year may be linked to an increase in attention deficit hyperactivity disorder symptoms. The research, reported in the Journal of the American Medical Association, found that year-on-year rises in problematic social media use in an individual were linked to a small subsequent increase in parent-reported attention deficit hyperactivity disorder symptoms at ages 14 through to 16, especially among boys. The authors say the new findings suggest that assessment of social media use among youths with ADHD should focus on problematic patterns and consider sex-specific risks. Amazon's next-generation AI-powered virtual assistant Alexa Plus has finally arrived in Australia. Based on Anthropic and Amazon's own AI programs, the large language model needed to be updated to understand the unique peculiarities of the Australian vernacular. With the details, we're joined by technology editor Alex Harovroit from TechAdvice.life.
People might remember that Alexa is from the smart speakers and the ones with screens, the Echo Show. So originally you could talk to the smart speaker, ask it various questions, it would give you answers. And this was sort of like an aborted attempt in one sense to deliver an AI assistant, a bit like Siri and Google Assistant as well. But anyone who tried to speak to them from longer than a few sentences quickly realized that, the illusion of it being able to have these long-flowing conversations, the way that we take for granted now with ChatGPT and Claude, just wasn't possible back then. It was a much more sort of primitive system. And although Amazon had hoped that people would use Alexa to order things from around their home, they even had little buttons where you could order more detergent for washing dishes or washing clothes. I mean, ultimately, people were using Alexa more as a home automation system. And, they were asking it various questions. You could ask it to give you a news bulletin, TV news. There are a bunch of different skills. I mean, you were able to ask it to tell you funny jokes, or, there was things you could do that made it kind of like a pretty cool system, but not of the same caliber as ChatGPT or Claude, as an example. And Alexa Plus, which is powered by Amazon's own AI systems, has been available in the US for the last year. And this is a conversational, capable personal assistant. But unfortunately, we didn't have it in Australia. But on August the 5th, it was launched into Australia. And it is coming to early access people first. And it's designed to be conversational, deeply personal, and complete real-world tasks from start to finish. Now, it'll be free during early access. Then you'll need a Prime membership. If you're not a Prime customer, it'll cost $29.99 per month. One of the things that Amazon told me in December last year, when I was in Vegas for their reInvent conference, was that it just wasn't ready for Australia yet. And I said, well, it seems to be ready. There's a bunch of nuances for Australia. So now Alexa Plus is tuned into Australian culture, local expressions, Aussie sports, homegrown music. Amazon already put a lot of work in to make sure that Alexa knew about Woolloomooloo, for example, and other Australian things. But when you're talking to an AI that really does feel effectively human, you really want to make sure that that's not just sprinkled on top, but it's baked in. The other thing that you want your large language model to do is not just answer questions, but do things. You want action. So you want it to be Alexa Plus to book a table at your favorite restaurant, or tell you about potential calendar clashes you have with something you've schedule with something that you're already doing, save cherished family recipes or recommend a gift for your mother and then buy it for you. And of course, do things like home automation where you turn the aircon on, but do this proactively when it senses the temperature has risen in the room you're in if you have those sorts of sensors. I mean, these are the sort of things I was talking about before, but now you've got this more intelligent AI behind it. It's going to feel a lot more natural, a lot more anticipatory. Actually, it'll feel like your smart home is actually a smart home, not just smart because you can get it to turn lights on and off, but it can talk to you if you set it up for it to, Alexa Plus in that way.
That's Alex Zaharov-Reutt from TechAdvice.life. And this is Space Time. And that's the show for now. SpaceTime is available every Monday, Wednesday and Friday through Bytes.com, SoundCloud, YouTube, your favourite podcast download provider, and from SpaceTimeWithStuartGary.com. SpaceTime's also broadcast through the National Science Foundation on Science Zone Radio and on both iHeartRadio and TuneIn Radio. And you can help to support our show by visiting the SpaceTime store for a range of promotional merchandising goodies, or by becoming a SpaceTime patron, which gives you access to triple-episode commercial-free versions of the show, as well as lots of bonus audio content which doesn't go to air, access to our exclusive Facebook group, and other rewards. Just go to SpaceTimeWithStuartGary.com for full details.
You've been listening to SpaceTime with Stuart Gary. This has been another quality podcast production from Bytes.com.